الحمد لله رب العالمين نويت التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على تمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير وابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يقربنا منك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today, inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will go into the chapter of the sock. It's called the khuf. And we all are definitely acquainted with this, and we know what the khuf is, right? Inshallah. The khuf is, as we know it, the leather sock that is worn. And the mu'allif, inshallah subhanahu, he will go into this and speak about this, the rules for it, and how long we should wear it, how can we wear it, and what is the sock supposed to be made of, what is permissible for us to use as a sock, not, inshallah. So the first thing he says is وَالْمَسْحُ عَلَى الْخُفَّيْنِ جَائِزٌ. The masah, the wiping on the khuf, is permissible. And where does it come from? There are more than 70 ahadith that are mentioned, and one of the great Salihin mentions, and he says that Hassan al-Basri, he mentions, and he says that he's heard narrations, more than 70 narrations speaking about the khuf itself. And this is what's called in a mustalah, in a term that we use, mutawatir, means that there are so many ahadith that it is impossible for such an amount of people to come together and to fabricate a hadith. So it's impossible. This shows us that that ahadith mentioned and speaking about the sock or the khuf, the wiping on the khuf, is permissible. So he says the first thing it's permissible, obviously, and then there are specific rules that goes with it. So the conditions for us to wipe on the sock is one. The first thing, there are five. The mu'allif mentions three, but there are five, and we'll mention the three that he speaks about. First thing is أن يبتدئ لبسهما بعد كمال الطهور أو كمال الطهارة. Is the first thing to wear the khuf. The first thing to wear the khuf is you have to make a complete wudu with water. The first thing is that you have to have wudu to wear it. And this wudu must be made complete. Wudu by water. Not tayammum and then wear the sock. No, water. So complete tahara is the first condition for us to wear the sock, to wear the khuf. The second one is أن يكونا ساترين لمحل غسل الفرض من القدمين. Is that for us to wipe on the sock, is it has to cover the, how must I show this now? Okay, the amount of the foot that is washed in the wudu. That means it should cover from the toe up to the ankle. All right? This is a must for the sock. This is a condition that the sock must have. It must cover from the toe completely, the whole foot up to the ankle. It must sit as if it is sitting as a shoe, like the way the sock is. The third thing is that he mentions here is وأن يكونا مما يمكن التتابع المشي عليهما. That you must be able to have the sock must have the ability that you can walk on it. And when he says here that you must be able to walk on the sock, meaning that you must be able to walk the distance of approximately, in some of the other books, many books they say about 1.5 miles. In some books, in most of the books, they mention that the distance or the quality of the sock must be able to endure walking on it for a day and one night, for a complete day and a night. This is for the person that's living, a muqim, what we call a person that's living in his hometown. All right, a muqim. He must be able to walk on it for 1 day and a night. As for a musafir, the person that's traveling more than 90 kilos or 89 kilos or 84 kilos, whatever it is, of the difference of opinions, say 90 kilos, more than 90 kilos, if he's traveling above this, then it is permissible for him to wear the khuf for 3 days. 3 days and 3 nights. Okay, so they say, ثلاثة أيام بلياليهن. And for the muqim, for the person that lives in his hometown, that lives in the country, him for 1 day and 1 night. That's the permissibility of wearing the sock. So he says, يمكن التتابع المشي عليه, that you have to be able to walk upon the sock, right? And then the other shurut, or the other conditions that is not mentioned in the book, he said, the other fuqaha mentioned is وأن يكون أو أن يمنع نفوذ الماء إلى قدمين. It means this is a very important shart according to the Shafi'iyah. A very important condition is that if you should pour water on the sock, right, the water should not go through and reach the foot. It's very important. It must have the ability, or should we say waterproof, not completely waterproof, but the water must not penetrate the sock and go through to the foot. Okay? And the final condition, that's the fourth condition, the final condition of the 5 is that it has to be pure, clean, tahara. So we can't use a sock or a leather that is made of dog or pig, right? Because this leather in itself is najasa. We cannot purify it. So if we have to wipe on this, our hands, the water that touch the sock, and our hands will become najasa, right? And it is not permissible for us to wear the sock in any case. So the five shurut, going through it again, the first is that it has to be worn after complete tahara. You have to make wudu first before you can wear it, right? The second shart, or the second condition, is that it has to cover the amount of the foot that is washed in the wudu. Because now the foot, what happens is the sock here is taking the place of the wash itself. So it has to cover the amount of the foot that's being washed in the wudu. Okay? The third one is that you must have the ability to walk on it for approximately a day and a night. All right? And for the musafir, he must be able to walk on it for as long as he is on, for 3 days at least, for 3 days and 3 nights, for whatever he needs. He must be able to walk on it for whatever he needs. Okay. And now we go and we ask, how long is the sock supposed to be worn? As for these people, for us, people that lives in your people of Hadar, people that living in your hometown, in your country, muqim, residents, people station. Okay, people who are stationed in their hometown, in their country, those people that are not travelers. A muqim, he wears it for 1 day and 1 night. 1 day and 1 night. He says, وَالْمَسْحُ الْمُقِيمِ يَوْمًا وَلَيْلَةً, 1 day and 1 night. وَالْمُسَافِرُ ثَلَاثَةَ أَيَّامٍ بَلَيَالِيهِنَّ أو بِلَيَالِيهِنَّ, is 3 days for the traveler, for 3 days and 3 nights. Day with its night, every day with its night. وابتداء المدة من حين يحدث بعد لبس الخفين. This is very important also, that we have to know. So after wearing the sock, when does the permissibility, or when does it end for us that we have to take the sock off? When does the start of to 1 day and 1 night, or the 3 days and 3 nights? And when do we have to take it off? When is the end of it? So he says here that the beginning of this time starts when you, not when you wipe, starts when you break your wudu. When you break your wudu. So you're wearing the sock, for instance, like now. I put on the sock, I made wudu, and I put the sock on, the khuf on. I wear it. And maybe before Isha, I decide I want to go relieve myself or something, whatever happens. That moment that happens, that is the time when the start of the khuf actually, when the wearing period starts from that time. So when I made wudu, that time I broke my wudu before Isha, and I wear it. So tomorrow, Isha, I'm going to have to remove it. Exactly tomorrow, Isha, I'm going to have to remove it. And this is the same for the person that is on travel. The moment he breaks his wudu on his travel, while on travel, he breaks his wudu, and he wipes on the sock. From the moment he breaks his wudu, 3 days and 3 nights from then, he's going to have to remove it. And to remove it, you just redo the whole thing again, make wudu, complete wudu, and then wear the sock again. Okay? Then he says, فَإِن مَسَحَ فِي الْحَضَرِ ثُمَّ سَافَرَ. So, he wears the sock, he makes wudu, wears the sock, wears the khuf. Let's use the term khuf, because I don't like to use the term sock, afwan. Because the sock is not really, we'll get to that inshallah. The sock itself, this sock, is not permissible to wipe on the sock. So the khuf, when we wear the khuf in hadar, while we're at home, we make wudu, we wear the sock, wear the khuf, and we break our wudu and we wipe upon on the khuf. So when we, after the wiping and we travel, now you are not allowed to wear the sock, because they said now when you're on travel you must wear the sock you must wear the khuf for 3 days. Right? 3 days. But if you wiped on the sock while at home before traveling, then on your travel you have to remove your sock within 1 day from the wipe, from the hadath. Meaning, let's go through this again, that if I'm at home and I break my wudu, I wipe on my sock. When I say wipe on the sock, means that I've nullified my wudu and then started the actual wearing of the sock. So I'm at home, I break my wudu and I wipe on the sock. Then I travel. Am I allowed to wait for 3 days? No. Why? Because I started my wiping while at home. So while at home, the ruling is that I can only wait for 1 day and 1 night. So when I travel, I'm going to have to remove it within 1 day from the time I've wiped on my sock. Right? From the time I've broken my wudu, afwan. From the time I've broken my wudu. Let's flip it around. I wear my sock on travel, like it says here. أو مسح في السفر ثم أقام. I wear my sock on travel, on my khuf on travel. I break my wudu and I wipe on the khuf. Alright? Meaning, wipe on the khuf means that now I have wudu. So I break my wudu on the travel, and a day, within a day or maybe less than 2 days, I arrive at home. What do I do now? Can I still complete another day? Should I still, or maybe 1 day I'm on travel and I arrive at home. Can I complete another 2 days? No. Why? Because the ruling is when you are at home, resident in your hometown, you're only allowed to wipe it for 1 day and 1 night. While on travel, you can wipe it for 3 days. So let's turn this completely the other way around now again. I wear it at home. I put it on after wudu, after tahara kamil, after wudu, complete wudu, and travel. On my travel, I break my wudu and then wipe on it. How long am I allowed to wear the sock then? For 3 days. Right? Because the rule here is the hadath, meaning here that when I nullified my wudu, when I broke my wudu, it was on safar. When you break your wudu on iqama, when you are at home, you have to wait for 1 day. You wipe only for 1 day. And when it is on the travel itself, then you can wait for 3 days. Okay? So, going back to the conditions again, when he says one of the conditions, the fourth one, when he says يمنع وصول الماء أو ما يمنع نفوذ الماء, means that it must prevent water from reaching the skin, right, from going through the sock itself. So this brings us to a leather sock. Most of the madhahib makes it compulsory to be a leather sock. Must be leather, because leather in this case now is waterproof, water resistant, right? Water will not go through it. When you say water does not go through it, means that water must not go through the actual khuf, not on the sides where it is stitched, where the stitching are. Where the stitching are, it is allowed for the water to go through. It's pardoned for that, so the water can go through. There's not a problem with that. But as for the sock, it's on top of the khuf itself or below, the water must not go through it and reach the skin and the foot itself. So this brings us to: is it permissible to wear this very sock that we have, which is this very sock that we have today, to wear? Can we do masah, wipe upon the sock? No, because why? It does not. That condition does not. This sock does not fulfill that condition. All right, that's one. And the second thing is, are we able to walk day and a night on this sock, whatever we want, wherever we want? Not really. We can't. Right? If I wanted to walk maybe to whatever the shop is down the road there for a couple of times, I'm sure that my sock is going to tear. Something's going to happen to it. And if I must throw water on my sock now, it's going to go through. Right? So that means it's not allowed in this case for us to wipe on the sock today. Okay, so let's just go through that quickly again before we go to the next chapter, inshallah. The first thing is, and then the sunnah, they also mention the type of wipe. How should you wipe upon the sock? So when you get to that, to the wiping itself, they say there's aqal wa akthar, or aqal wa akmal. The best way to wipe on the sock is to place. Can I just move this? Yeah, Latif. To place the right hand on top, from by the toe. The right hand on top at the toe, and the left hand at the heel. This is the proper way. And to move in the opposite directions. So when you're wiping, you're going with your left hand from the heel up to the toe. From the heel up to the toe. And Afwan, can everybody see? I think the explanation is good enough, inshallah. Hopefully. And the right hand on the toe, on top. Left hand on the heel at the bottom. So when you wipe, you're actually doing this in the opposite direction. So you're wiping with the right hand up to the ankle, and with the left hand, you're going forward to the toe. Right? That is the proper way to wipe it. And then you can also, it's not a problem to wipe it just the top wipe, just with your 3 fingers, just from the toe up. Right? And then also it's permissible, according to the Shafi'iyah, just to let water reach it. That's it. So maybe, sometimes maybe in a hurry or something, salah is late, you need to make it for takbiratul ihram, because we know the rewards for takbiratul ihram. So we want to make it for takbiratul ihram, and you have reached the foot now. What you can do is take water, sprinkle it, and move. Take water, sprinkle it. That's the aqal. That is permissible to do. But the best is to wipe it as shown from the top, the right hand on top on the toe, going up, and the left hand on the heel at the bottom, going forward up to the toe. Okay? And then also mentioned is وَلَا يَصِحُ اللُّبْسُ بَعْدَ تَيَمُّمْ. That is not permissible to wear the khuf after tayammum, after making tayammum. Because why? The condition that mentioned already, the first condition was mentioned that it has to be made ala taharatin kamil. Right? On a complete tahara, wudu, that is. So a tayammum is not called tahara, is a complete tahara, because why? It is a leeway for something. The tayammum is a leeway for something else. Okay? So it's not permissible to wear it after tayammum. That is agreed upon by all the madhahib except Shafi'i. Under one condition he does it. It's not permissible to wipe after tayammum, but only one condition. And this condition is if the person is extremely sick, extremely ill, and it's absolutely necessary for him to do it, then he can wear the khuf in this case. Okay, so that we've just completed the khuf now. Is there any questions there? It's understood, inshallah, right? Hopefully, inshallah. The next one, before finishing that is, and what nullifies the actual wipe? When must you take it off? After 1 day, right? For a person, a resident. After 3 days for a traveler. Or what happens is somebody that removes, or somebody that has gone into a state of janaba, he has to remove it. Alright? He goes into a state of janaba, he has to remove it. And the last one is the person that removes the socket, the khuf itself. When removing the khuf, what happens now? If he is in a state of wudu, and he removes the khuf, he has to just wash the khuf, his foot, and then replace the khuf. Because when removing the khuf, you break your wudu. That is if you wiped on the sock, on the khuf. But if you haven't made masah on the khuf yet, and you remove the khuf, then it's not a problem. You still have your wudu. But if you have done the wiping, the actual masah on the khuf, and then remove the khuf, then your wudu goes. Alright? You break your wudu. And in this case, if you do not have wudu, and you've done your masah already, and you remove the khuf, then you have to make tahara kamil again to put the khuf back on. But if you've made the masah and you remove the khuf, and you have wudu, then in this case you only wash the foot and then replace the khuf. Only wash the foot and replace the khuf. Is that understood, inshallah? Bi-idhnillah. Okay, bismillah. So now we go to the next chapter, inshallah. This chapter is called tayammum. And tayammum here is, as we know, is the moving of dust, wiping the face and the arms with dust, with sand. And he says, وَشَرَائِتُ التَّيَمُّمْ خَمْسَةً. There are 5 conditions to make tayammum. In order to make tayammum, we have 5 conditions. The first of these conditions are وجود العذر. You have to have a excuse, right? And what type of excuse should you have? The first of which is of the excuses are you can make tayammum while you're traveling, right? That is when you're traveling and you do not find water where you are, you can make tayammum, right? The second thing is when you are seriously ill. When you are ill or sick, that requires for you to make tayammum, meaning that you might have some sort of skin problem or injured in some way that is absolutely necessary. The doctor perhaps said that if you should use water, you will become more ill. Or they say, like the fuqaha mentions, they say, if you should use water, you'll become more ill. Or if you use water, this disease or this harm that you have on you now will not go away. Or if you use water, whatever you are harmed with now at this moment will delay the recovery. So in these cases, it is necessary for the person to make tayammum. And how do we, and performing tayammum, we'll get to that inshallah. So the first is, you have to have excuse, traveling. Traveling is excuse. Not finding water on a travel, alright? And when they say not finding water on a travel means that there are no water around you, But if you find water, perhaps like in a shop, for instance, you find water, and then it becomes wajib for you to buy water to make the wudu. Only one condition does not make it wajib for you is if the water is more than the cost price, the normal price that you'll find it in the town. If the water is expensive, more than what you usually pay for water while on traveling, then you don't need to buy water to make tayammum, to make wudu. In this case, then you can make tayammum, you can perform your tayammum without buying the water. And when you are ill, sick, right? And it's mentioned now that illness that will delay delay recovery, or it will make the illness worse by using the water, or even fear death to a certain extent. So in these three conditions, in these three states, it is necessary for you to perform your tayammum. And then performing tayammum, the third condition of performing tayammum is that you have to perform tayammum or perform tayammum in the time of salah. If the time of salah has arrived, then you can only perform tayammum. Right? You cannot make or perform tayammum outside of the waqt of salah. This is a condition for that. Okay. And the fourth condition is, or from the conditions there are many, another condition is that you have to seek or look for water. If you are at home, a resident, you have to look for water by your friends, by your neighbors, everywhere. Alright? Not to the at least hadd al-ghawth, meaning that it's maybe 300 meters or something like that. Should be approximately 300 meters around you. If you go, approximately like that, you go to about 40 people, your neighbors, everywhere you go there and you look for water and nobody has water, then in this case you can make wudu, you can perform your tayammum. And the same thing here also applies that if you find water, you can buy water, then you have to buy the water, right? But the water must be normal price or cost price, not more than that. And a condition is that also one of the conditions is that it must be difficult for you to use the water in the case that you'll fall more ill, or you get, or it will hurt yourself, and the water is not around. Then the condition here is that for the turab that we use, it's absolutely necessary for the turab, for the sand, it must be pure. And the sand here it does not mean that we use the sand itself. The sand, it is the dust that they're speaking about in the sand. Dust. This is what is used. Turab al-tahir lahu ghubar. Ghubar here is the dust in the sand. So this sand must be pure in order for us to make tayammum, to perform tayammum. So if the turab is mixed with anything else like powder, anything of that sort, then we cannot perform the tayammum with this turab. Alright? And that is just the conditions. Now we go to the fard of tayammum. The first of four is the niyyah. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. For everything we do is niyyah. Alright? That goes with the ayah. وإن كنتم مرضى على سفر أو جاء أحد من الغائط أو جاء أحد من الغائط أو لمستم النساء فلم تجدوا ماء فتيمموا. فتيمموا means that you have to make the intention. Tayammum لغة or linguistically means to intend. Right? So فتيمموا صعيدا طيب means that you have to make or perform tayammum with pure clean sand. Right? فَامْسَحُوا بِوُجُوهِكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ مِنْهُ. So, the first is the niyyah. The second is to wipe the face. And the third is the hands. And the fourth is tartib, sequence, as shown in the ayah. Right? Usually that is the same with the wudu also. how it is when إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق, like that. And the same here, the same thing, فامسحوا بوجوهكم وأيديكم. So, how do you actually perform the tayammum? Okay, let's finish the sunnah first. First, the sunnah acts of tayammum is to say Bismillah. The niyyah is fard, but to say Bismillah is sunnah. So say Bismillah, and then to wipe taqdeemul yumna al yusra, to wipe the right hand first, and then the left hand, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to love at-tayammum. Tayamun is that he did everything first right and then left. Alright, like in many hadiths is mentioned, when he combed his hair, he used to he used to comb his hair from the right side first and then from the left. He used to dress, put on the right first and then the left. And one day can I say, subhanallah, one Habib Umar told us a story one day, and he mentions that one of the Habaib was seriously ill, and his son came to dress him. And when he wanted to remove his jubba, his cloak, he started with his right side. And the father stopped him and said, Ya la 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 ya waladi, this is not the way. Because the sunnah, he knows that when you dress, you put on the right first and then the left. And when you remove the garment or whatever it is, shoes, whatever it is, you remove from the left first and then the right. And so he said, La waladi, you must practice the sunnah. Remember, the sunnah is to remove from the left first. And this is to show how the people used to be, love the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anyway, that's off from the topic. The sunnah is to do the right side first and then the left side, and to do this after each other, muwalat. Not to do one right hand now and then later I'll do my left hand. Alright? This is sunnah, to do it immediately after each other. So how is it that they do the tayammum? First thing is that you have to remove the ring. For the first wipe, it is permissible to have the ring. So what they do is, you stamp your hand into the sand, and when you raise it, you don't take the sand itself, you raise it, you just brush the sand off, so you only have dust in your hands. First thing is the one, Bismillah, and the niyyah, one, and then like this. So after doing this, for the first wipe, it's permissible to have the ring on, but it's obviously better to take the ring off. Alright? I can't see. Oh, okay. Okay. The first step is to keep the hands directly, the palms facing down, and hit the hands onto the sand once. And when raising the hands up, is just to tap the hands against each other so the sand itself fall off, because we don't want sand in our face. We want the dust to reach the skin. So tap the hands against each other so that the sand fall off and we have the dust. And then to wipe from the top of the face down. That is the first wipe. One wipe. One tap on the sand and one wipe. Right from the face down, and try to cover as much of the area of the face as possible, opening the hands up. The second tap, you have to remove, it now becomes wajib for you, you have to remove the ring if you are wearing a ring. And then to do exactly the same thing, face the palm down, the palms down to the sand, and tap it once, raise it, tap the sand off, and then to keep the hand open. Alright? You could do this anyway, but you have to do it. Keep the hand open, facing up, and place it on the bottom of the fingers. Face both palms up. Place it on the bottom of the fingers at the bottom of your fingers, and then go down, right up to the elbow, wiping the back of the arm right down to the elbow, and when reaching the elbow, coming around and going back up with the inside of your thumb and your index finger, going back up to the thumb of your right hand. That is how you do that. So what we did now is, if you look at it, we've covered all the area of the skin. We've gone right down all the area of the skin on this side. So when I come around on this side, everything is covered. Everything is covered, right? Except inside the fingers, between the fingers. The same for this hand is clean. You haven't touched the inside of your hand. There's still dust in here. So you take your right hand, the same with your left. The same thing is to place your, what is this? The back of your fingertips. The back of your fingertips on the inside of your hand, on your fingers, on your right hand, and then do the exact same thing. Go down, up to the elbow, and when you come at the elbow, flip, just turn, using the inside of your thumb and your index finger going up to the thumb and wiping. So now what we did is we covered the whole area of both hands. What we have left now is the inside, and that also needs to, because the whole area must be covered. So what we do is, as Habib Muhammad and Aidaru showed us, is that all you need to do is this. Just like shubak, like you close your fingers, like you're doing, what do you call this? To clamp. Cleanse. Okay, just to clamp, afwan. This is, subhanAllah, it's interesting. Just to clamp the two fingers together, put the fingers between each other, once like this, and pull it out. So that means you've covered all the area of the skin from the hand, from the fingertips to the elbows. Alright? So that is the proper way of performing the tayammum. And then what nullifies the tayammum is the same stuff, the same exact same things that nullifies the wudu. If you go to the hammam, to the toilet, you have to relieve yourself, whatever it is, you nullify your wudu. If you pass wind, you nullify your wudu. So in this case, the same that nullifies the wudu nullifies the tayammum. And in this case here, tayammum, if you see water outside of salah, while making salah and water arrives, because one of the conditions was you had to search for water, right? So you never found water. You performed your tayammum. Now you started your salah, Allahu Akbar, and there somebody comes and you see him carrying water. Or the water truck, like in the countries that we live, water trucks used to come bring us water to our houses. So the water comes. While making salah, your wudu or your tayammum does not break. But if you were out of salah, you haven't started your salah yet, or you've just completed your salah, then immediately your tayammum breaks or nullifies, and then you have to perform wudu with water. You have to perform wudu with water. And then also, they mentioned here ridda, that if you must utter something that is kufr, then may Allah protect us from that. Then that nullifies the wudu. In fact, that nullifies everything if you look at it. Then also some of the masail that mentions that tayammum should only be made once for every salah, every fard. You cannot make two fard with one tayammum. So if you perform tayammum and we've just completed or performed maghrib, to perform Isha, you have to perform your tayammum again. You have to make it again. Alright? But for nawafil, if you made one fard, then you can make as many nawafil sunnah as you want. You can recite Quran, you can make salatul ba'diyah, qabliyah, whatever it is with the, not qabliyah, salatul ba'diyah with the sunnah, with the tayammum. But the fard itself, you have to perform one tayammum for each fard. One tayammum for each fard. And then, subhanallah. And then, as mentioned, the Sheikh actually asked last week that we should mention something about tattoos. And before we get there, inshallah, we'll finish the last part of tayammum is that the sahib al-jabira or jabair, this is very important. How do we perform tayammum while having, in this case here, we have what we call is a cast or plaster or bandages, whatever it is. If in these cases we are injured, he says here, وَصَاحِبُ الْجَبَائِرِ يَمْسَحُ عَلَيْهَا. The person that has this jabira or jabair is that he has bandage, he can wipe over it in the tayammum while performing tayammum, right? He can wipe over it. But there are a couple of things that we need to remember when it comes to having the bandage or the plaster on. If we are injured and the bandage or the plaster is on the hand or the face, the plaster is on the hand or the face, then in this case, we have to perform tayammum. And with this tayammum, we have to we have to redo our salah when we can make wudu properly. This is how they say. If you have the jabira on the hand or the face, then qada salah is upon you. You have to perform your salah again when you can make wudu properly. When the jabira or the bandage is on a place and you are able to remove it, all right? And then you have to remove it and then wipe over that. If you cannot wash it, okay, let's start like this. First, how do we make wudu before getting it? How do we make wudu while having a bandage? Is you perform the wudu up until the place where the bandage is or the plaster is. And when you get there, if you're not able to remove the plaster, then you can wipe over the plaster. Alright? You can wipe over it. So you make wudu with water. Maybe for instance, it's on my hand here, on my arm here. I make wudu, wipe the face, everything. And when I get to the arms, I stop here and then dry my hand and my face and perform tayammum for that. Perform the tayammum for that fard part. And after, you have to try and wash what is the sahih, the part of the body or the part of the arm that is not injured. You have to try and wash it first and just leave that part where the injury is. And then for that injury, because you cannot wash the complete arm, for that injury there, we make tayammum for it. Alright? Perform tayammum for that injury. And after performing your tayammum, then you complete your wudu. Then you complete your wudu by wiping the head, ears, and the feet. Okay? Is that understood? Okay, again. If the injury is on the, let's use a different one. If the injury is on the face, I've got a gash in my face, right? Cut in my face. And it is covered or not covered. In this case here, after washing my hands, the first part is obviously the face. I have to make wudu with my face. The first part is the face. So I cannot wipe water over my face. So what I do is, I wipe what is necessary of the face and leave this part where the injury is. For this, on the face, I perform tayammum. Alright? Now I perform tayammum for this. The way that was shown now. Wipe the face. If it's possible to wipe over it, you go over it. If there's a plaster on, then you wipe with the dust over the face and then do the arms like it is. After performing tayammum, now what you do is you complete your wudu as supposed to be. You wash your hands and then wash your head and wash your feet. Okay, is that understood? I think that is much easier. Okay. So the same rule applies to wherever the injury is. So if the injury was on the hand, the same rule applies. If the injury is on the foot, same rule applies. When you get to the foot, make tayammum, you perform tayammum for the foot. Okay? That's understood, inshallah. Okay. So now, the plaster or the bandage has to be removed if you can remove it. If you cannot remove it, then you wipe over it. But in this case here, it's absolutely necessary for the bandage to only cover the amount of the scar of the injury. If it only covers the amount, for instance, I've got the injury about this, the length of my finger on my arm, and I've got the plaster exactly the length of my finger, exactly as that on my arm. Then, in this case here, when performing my tayammum for that part, I don't need to repay my salah. I don't need to repay my salah. But if I have a bandage, complete bandage that's covering more than what is necessary, and I've wiped over the bandage, all right, then I have to repay my salah that I performed with it. And then again, another two, that if I've placed the bandage on this area before performing wudu, before cleaning the place, before performing wudu, then in this case, like to make it more easier, like if we have a cast on the arm, sometimes I had a cast on my foot. So what you do if you break your, what you do first is perform wudu first. You perform your wudu first, and then let them put the cast on. Alhamdulillah, something happened to my foot, and they asked me, "Do you want to perform wudu first in Syria?" I cracked my foot, and they asked me, "Do you want to perform wudu first?" I said, "Yes, obviously." So alhamdulillah, they gave me the opportunity to make wudu first and then put the cast on. And sometimes they don't give you that, or sometimes you don't realize. So we get to that now. So what you do is you have to place the cast, and then afterwards you can wipe for that. You can wipe for that, no problem. And you don't need to repay your salah in this case. Right, time finish? Okay. Okay, anyway, Imam Nawawi mentions in the Majmu' to get out of all this, he mentions one of his ikhtiyarat, one of his choices in the Majmu'. It is the encyclopedia of the Shafi'i madhab, and he says that wherever the jabira is, the bandage or the plaster is, and you placed it wherever the jurh, the injury is, and you placed the plaster on it, and you made tayammum on it, then you don't need to repay your salah, no problem with that. And that is just to make it easy on the people that has, how can I say, difficulty. You probably forgot to make your wudu before placing your bandage on, or you placed the bandage on a dirty area. So just as mu'tamad, as the preferable choice, according to the Shafi'iyah, that we should remember that try and put the bandage or the plaster on a clean area and try to cover exactly the amount of the jurh, that is exactly the amount of the injury, so that we can make the masah of it. And if it is in the circumstances that this did not happen, then no problem, inshallah. There is a qawl that gives us leeway for that. And then finally, we mentioned that already. وَتَيَمُّمْ لِكُلِّ فَرْضٍ وَيُصَلِّي بِتَيَمُّمٍ وَاحِدٍ مَشَاء. Okay. So you have to make tayammum. For every tayammum, you have to make only one fard. And for every tayammum, it's possible for you to do whatever nawafil you want. And also the last and final is that when we perform our tayammum, some people, we perform tayammum, we say, I would love to, my niyyah of the tayammum is to recite Quran. So when you perform tayammum for Quran, with that tayammum, you cannot make salah. With that tayammum, you cannot make salah. So when you made istibahat salah, or when you made the tayammum for salah, to performing a fard salah, then you can make any nawafil after that. You can recite Quran, you can make sunnah, anything you want. Right? But if there's a lower, if you made tayammum for reciting Quran, then you cannot make salah with that nawafil salah. Right? Or if you made tayammum for nawafil salah, then you cannot make a fard salah with it. Okay? Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati afwan. Please forgive me. I know that I hope it's understood. Alright, inshallah. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام